Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're taking a profound, almost cinematic journey through the source materials that document the life of Prophet Muhammad. This is a story of immense historical magnitude, a narrative of real struggle, profound loss, unyielding resilience, and an ultimate triumph that completely transformed the Arabian Peninsula and, eventually, the world. Our sources paint a very vivid picture of a man who started as a humble orphan and ended up entirely reshaping human history. Let's look at exactly how this remarkable story unfolds.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture the Arabian Peninsula before Islam. The historical texts describe it as being entrenched in Jahiliyyah, basically an era of profound ignorance. We're talking about a grim reality of severe lawlessness, endless blood feuds, and the tragic, unthinkable practice of burying infant daughters alive. But right next to that darkness, we find this massive, miraculous event, documented just before his birth in 570 CE. A viceroy named Abraha marched this invincible army of 60,000 men and massive war elephants to destroy the Kaaba in Makkah. And according to the narrative, this overwhelming force was miraculously defeated by vast flocks of birds dropping deadly stones. It's an event known as the Year of the Elephant, and it perfectly set the stage for an extraordinary arrival in Makkah.
Section 1. The Trustworthy One. So, the sources show us that the light of this new arrival was grounded in a deeply noble ancestry, though his early years were actually defined by immense personal tragedy.
Let's trace his lineage back. The texts link his noble lineage straight back from Prophet Ibrahim through Prophet Ishmael all the way down to his grandfather Abdul Muttalib. Born into the respected Hashim clan in 570 CE, tragedy really struck him from day one. His father Abdullah passed away before he was even born. And then, by the time he was just 6 years old, his mother Amina passed away too, leaving him completely orphaned. After his grandfather died shortly after that, he was taken in and raised by his incredibly loving, though quite poor, uncle Abu Talib. He grew up working as a shepherd, literally learning patience and gentleness out in the harsh desert. So, the crucial point is that long before any claims of prophethood, it was his personal character that became his defining trait. The sources really emphasize that he was universally known by everyone as Al-Amin, the trustworthy one. He never lied, he was impeccably honest in his business dealings, and he just showed incredible fairness. And this pristine reputation, it caught the attention of a wealthy, highly respected businesswoman named Khadijah. She was so impressed by his flawless character and, the unprecedented profits he brought her through honest trade, that Khadijah, who had turned down many prominent men, actually proposed marriage to him. Their partnership went on to become one of the most supportive and loving marriages ever recorded in history.
Fast forward to when he was 35, and a bitter dispute erupts over rebuilding the Kaaba. Different tribes were literally taking oaths to fight to the death over who would have the honor of placing the sacred black stone. They finally agreed to let the first man who walked through the gate decide, and that man happened to be Al-Amin. His solution was just brilliant. He placed the stone on a cloth and had the leader of each tribe hold a corner. They lifted it together peacefully, and he placed the stone himself. He single-handedly averted a bloody civil war right then and there, cementing his reputation as a great unifier.
Section 2. The First Revelation. As he approached his 40th year, his deep distress over the injustice and idol worship going on in Makkah pushed him to seek out solitude. According to the texts, he would meditate in the Cave of Hira, and it was there that he was terrified by the sudden, magnificent appearance of the angel Jibreel. The angel commanded him to read. Now, he was unlettered, but the heavy, awe-inspiring words just flowed. Read in the name of your Lord who created. This magnificent, gravity-filled encounter officially initiated his prophetic mission. He ran home trembling, completely overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of what had just occurred. Still trembling and terrified, he turned to his wife, Khadijah. The sources highlight that she didn't just comfort him. She immediately believed in his message, making her the very first believer. From there, the earliest followers formed this tight, secret little circle. You had his closest friend, Abu Bakr, his young cousin, Ali, and his adopted son, Zayd. Together, they quietly embraced this radical new message of one God and absolute human equality.
Section 3. Boycott and Sorrow. Well, a revolutionary message like that couldn't stay a secret forever, right? Once he started preaching openly, the powerful leaders of Makkah saw this message of equality as a direct threat to their wealth, their slaves, and their deeply rooted tribal pride.
The escalation of persecution detailed in the sources is just harrowing. First, it starts with mockery and garbage literally thrown at his door, but then it escalates to ruthless physical torture of his most vulnerable followers. The texts describe Bilal being pinned down in the burning desert sand under massive stones, and Sumayya and Yasser actually killed for their faith. This all culminates in a brutal 3-year economic and social boycott. The Muslims were forced into a barren valley, completely cut off from food and trade, surviving on leaves and boiling animal skins just to stay alive. It was devastating.
The boycott did eventually end, but it was immediately followed by what historians call the Year of Sorrow. I mean, how do you endure losing your 2 greatest pillars of support? In a single year, he lost his beloved wife Khadija and his fiercely protective uncle Abu Talib. Seeking a new home for his message, he traveled to the city of Taif, only to be violently chased out and pelted with stones until his sandals literally filled with blood. Yet, and this is wild, the sources note that in his absolute deepest earthly sorrow, he only prayed for mercy for the very people who attacked him.
Section 4. Night Journey and Hijra. Right after this moment of profound isolation and physical agony, the narrative tells us he was granted an unparalleled divine miracle to comfort him. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer cosmic scale of the event described in the texts. The Isra and Mi'raj was this breathtaking physical and spiritual journey where he was transported on a miraculous winged being called the Buraq from Mecca all the way to Jerusalem in a single night. From there, he ascends through different dimensions, the 7 heavens, meeting past prophets like Moses and Jesus before actually entering the divine presence. He returns to earth with the gift of the 5 daily prayers, a foundational pillar of Islam that completely revitalized the weary believers.
But back on Earth, the danger was absolutely peaking. By 622 CE, the leaders of Makkah had orchestrated a massive assassination plot. This triggers the Hijra, or migration. The sources share this suspenseful mini-narrative here, where, while hiding from trackers in the Cave of Hira, the Prophet and Abu Bakr were protected by nothing but a fragile spiderweb and a dove's nest miraculously placed right at the cave entrance. Tricking their pursuers, they escaped across the harsh desert and made a triumphant, joyous arrival in the city of Yathrib, which was then renamed Medina, the city of the Prophet.
Section 5. The Peaceful Conquest. The Medina era marks a massive shift. He transitions from a persecuted preacher to a full-blown statesman. He drafts the Constitution of Medina, often cited as history's first written constitution, unifying diverse tribes. Peace wasn't immediate, though. The Muslims had to defensively fight for their survival in major battles like Badr, Uhud, and the incredible Battle of the Trench.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how much the tide had completely turned. After the Meccans broke a peace treaty in 630 CE, the Prophet returned to his home city. But he didn't return as a persecuted outcast. He returned leading a massive, unopposed army of 10,000 men. The city that had tortured his friends and driven him out was now entirely in his hands. What happens next is arguably the emotional climax of this entire explainer. Standing before the very people who had starved, beaten, and killed his followers, he asked them what they expected him to do. They braced for the absolute worst. Instead, he declared a universal amnesty. Go, you are free. He cleared the Kaaba of its 360 idols without spilling a single drop of blood. The texts emphasize that this unprecedented act of mercy shocked his enemies so deeply that thousands embraced his message right on the spot.
Section 6. A Legacy of Light. We now move into the final chapter of his life. By 632 CE, the entire Arabian Peninsula had unified under his message. He set out for his farewell pilgrimage, standing before an awe-inspiring crowd of roughly 100,000 Muslims.
Let's move to this and see how it builds. In his farewell sermon, he delivered a powerful message that completely dismantled the racism and tribalism that defined that old Jahiliyyah era. He laid down a timeless framework for absolute human equality and justice, stating clearly that an Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab and that a person's character and good actions are the only true metrics of their worth. Just months after that profound sermon, on June 8, 632 CE, the Prophet passed away in Medina at the age of 63. The sources make a point to note that he left behind no wealth, no palaces, and no personal fortune. Yet, the impact of his 23-year prophetic mission is just staggering. The historical text suggests that he took a society of dark coals and transformed them into bright diamonds. So we have to ask, how does a single message, built on patience, truth, and mercy, continue to illuminate the hearts of over 1 billion people 1,400 years later?